Good evening. My name is Eric Danielson with the Iowa College Access Network. I want to thank you for joining us for this 25-26 FAFSA step-by-step presentation. Whether you're watching it live here on Wednesday, December 18th, or you're watching the recording of it, hopefully you'll get a lot out of it. And if you've got questions later on, we'll certainly let you know where you can get those questions answered if you're watching the recording. First of all, I want to mention and thank our step-by-step partners, the Iowa Department Bureau of Iowa College Aid. Have been a great partner with us. This is actually part of our FAFSA Awareness Week that we held last week. We had to do it today because we had already had it set and had FAFSA events last Wednesday, so we couldn't offer a step-by-step program during last week. But we'd always really had set this up, even with the FAFSA being delayed. We knew we were going to be able to hold it at this time. So we want to thank them. Also, our partners at IASFA, the Iowa Association of Student Financial Aid Administrators. In fact, tonight, for those that are watching it live here on Wednesday, December 18th, the way that we're going to answer your questions is within the chat box. And on the chat box, we've got from IASFA different experts here. Those are Jordan from the University of Iowa, Kylie from Southwestern Community College, Melissa from DMAC, Steph from Grinnell, and Tim from the University of Northern Iowa. And again, myself here going through it step by step. The way we're going to do this is I'm going to have slides and showing you how to do it and talk through the process as if you were a dependent student filling out the form, and then parent information after that and what's going to be needed. But as we go along through this, we want to try to answer your questions. And so these experts are going to be answering your questions on the chat box. So put those in at any time during the program, and they will try to answer those for you. Just to give a little practice tonight for those that are attending right now, can you just put in what city that you're in or high school that you're from, either one? Just wanted to get an idea within the chat box. So those attending live here, can you put that in? We got someone from Urbandale, Cedar Falls, Williamsburg, Duncanton, Des Moines Dowling, Alburnett, Davenport, Johnston, Assumption, Davenport, Alburnett. Excellent. Mount Pleasant, we got Southeast Iowa represented there. Sioux City. I was wondering, so we've got Remsen, Bishop Heelan, Adel. Excellent, excellent. Clarion, Southeast Polk. Really, it looks like we've got the whole state covered. Lincoln High School. Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you very much. Again, appreciate those of you joining tonight. And again, hopefully we'll be able to go through this with you and get the questions that you need answered. So again, utilize that chat box at any time, whatever questions that you have, and these experts are going to try to answer those for you. Now, I also wanted to give you where I work at, the Iowa College Access Network. We're a nonprofit organization that helps students and families through the career and college planning process. That is our website and phone number. If you would need help after watching this step-by-step and would like help either by Zoom or an in-person appointment at one of our locations, just go online or give us a call and you can set up an appointment with us, and we can do it either way. With you. Going to give you an idea on what's going to be needed tonight as we go through this step-by-step process, that we would be happy to help you in person or through Zoom in filling out this form as well. Now, before I go through the step-by-step process, one of the things I did want to mention right away as we get started here is that you are going to need to create a studentaid.gov account. And when I say you are going to need to create one, that really is going to be every what we call contributor on the FAFSA form is going to need one. Where you go up to set up an account is where the FAFSA is located, studentaid.gov. So both the student and parent, or maybe even parents, contributors might need to get an account. For a dependent student, at least one parent is going to need to get a studentaid.gov account. Why it's so important now to get these accounts ahead of time is to be fully able to fill out the FAFSA form, utilize all its functions. You need to have your studentaid.gov account verified with the Social Security Administration. That takes 1 to 3 days. So go into studentaid.gov. If you haven't already created an account, I would do that ASAP. and then you wait 1 to 3 days until it's verified, and then you're able to full capacity use that to be able to fill out the FAFSA form with those accounts. It doesn't mean that there isn't some things that you can get started with it if they're not verified, but it is best to have done them ahead of time and be verified. Now, if you're a parent that already has an account from a previous student, each student needs to have their own, but you would use your account for each student that you have to include your information on. So again, just wanted to make sure to mention that. If you have any questions about studentaid.gov accounts, again, please put those in the chat box as well for our financial aid experts, but wanted to bring that to your attention initially here at the very beginning of the program. Now, what our example is going to be tonight is a dependent student starting to fill out the form and then inviting a parent to be contributed and do their part later. So that's the process and the way we're going to end up doing it. And I'll be on at ICAN a lot of times. That's how we fill out the form with the students and families. Is we start with the student information, logging in with their account first, and then once we're done with the student information, logging in with the parents to complete their part. So that will be the way that we discuss this step by step tonight. Where you would go to begin it is again at studentaid.gov, the same place where you get your studentaid.gov accounts, or what you also might hear as an FSA ID, Federal Student Aid ID. This is the place to go register for that, but you're also going to complete the FAFSA form there. When you go to studentaid.gov, you're either going to start a new form or edit an existing form. If you've never done it before, we would click on starting a new form. And then it will allow you to log in if you haven't already. Now, for some of you, you might log in right away. You go to studentaid.gov, you may log in right away and then enter in and click on the button for the 2526 FAFSA form to start a new form. Either way that you do it is fine, but the student is going to need to log in with their studentaid.gov account. And after they log in, they are going to be also two-step verified, which means you're going to have a 6-digit code either text to you or emailed to you, whatever that you had verified. Email, when you create a studentaid.gov account, you have to verify an email account. You don't have to do a cell number, but we would encourage you to do that to have both available. So logging into the account, once you've done that, then with the FAFSA form, it's going to ask what your role is. Quite honestly, we're going to start with the student beginning this form, but either the student or the parent can do it. If you're starting a new form, a parent could start it. They would enter in general student information at first and then complete their section. The student will still need to log in to complete their part if that's how somebody does begin the process. But again, for our example, we're going to start with the student. So we would click on student there, and then it goes through there's 4 videos that you could watch. Now, I'm going to be talking about what a lot of these videos are going to be talking about with you already. But there is onboarding if you want to watch them. First of all, what the FAFSA form is. The second video is about what contributors are going to need to be on the FAFSA form. Excuse me. And I did want to address that right away. Who is going to be considered the parent contributors on a dependent student's FAFSA form? If both legal parents are married, we're going to answer questions about both parents. If those parents filed joint taxes in 2023, which is what this FAFSA form is going to be asking about, 2023 tax information. If they filed joint taxes, only one of those parents would need to get a studentaid.gov account to be able to fill out the form. If for some reason those parents filed a married filing separate tax return in 2023, then both parents would need to get studentaid.gov accounts to be able to complete their sections on the form. If legal parents are unmarried but living together, we're going to answer questions about both parents as well. Now, this would be one example. If the legal parents are unmarried but living together, we need both parent information, but they would not have filed a joint tax return in 2023. So both those parents would need to get studentaid.gov accounts to be able to complete their sections of the FAFSA form. In that way, there would need to be the student and both parents. So really 3 different sections, people logging in to complete their part to do the total FAFSA form for that student. If a parent is widowed or single, we're only going to answer questions about that parent. So only that parent would need to get a studentaid.gov account. But if the widowed parent would be remarried as of the day you're filling out the form, then we need to answer questions about both that parent and step parent. Even if they weren't remarried during the tax year that's being asked about, we would still need both parents, both the parent and step parent information in that case. Now, along the same lines with that, one we really want to stress out to you, make sure you know, is when parents are divorced or separated. When parents are divorced or separated, we answer questions about the parent that has provided the most financial support. And there will be some questions on the form about that. It's not going to be on our example tonight, but they will, if parents aren't married, they will ask you, do they live together? Or, does one support more? Yes. Is that parent remarried? If not, then it would just be one parent. So if parents are divorced or separated, and let's say the parent that provides the most financial support is dad, and dad is not remarried, it's only dad's information that's going to go down on the form, and only dad would need a studentaid.gov account. Now, if dad would be remarried as of today, as it says down below, then we answer questions about both parent and step parent. So we would need dad and step parent information to be included on the FAFSA form. Even if the parent wasn't remarried during the tax year that's being asked about, if they're remarried, if they got married yesterday, December 17th, and you're filling out a FAFSA form today on December 18th, we would need both parent and step parent information from 2023 on the student's FAFSA form. Of course, if they just got married yesterday, that means they wouldn't have filed a joint return in 2023. So that would be another example to where both the parent and step parent would need to get studentaid.gov accounts to be able to fill out the form. I know that that can be a little confusing. So again, if you have questions, and it looks like there are questions coming in on the chat, if you have questions, please put that in there if you're watching this live. If you are watching the recorded version and you have questions, again, contact us at ICAN and we'll certainly try to answer those questions for you. Now, moving back into the form, the third video is about kind of what to expect. It says how long it'll take will be about an hour. Maybe if you're not used to filling it out, but when everybody has things together, I mean, it's been taking us sometime 15, 20 minutes to be able to fill out a form if they've got studentaid.gov accounts ahead of time in that. The form has been moving along much better this year compared to last year. If any of you have heard any of the horror stories about the changes that were made and things last year, this year has been much better. And so it has not been taking very long at all if you have all the information ready available for you. And then the last one is about after submitting the FAFSA form. I'll speak a little bit on that towards the end, but that might be a good video to check out at some time for you as well when you're beginning to do it, just to know what to expect. So after the videos with the student information here, you need to review that. That's the first part of this, looking at the name, date of birth, social security number, email address, mobile phone number, and permanent address. If you would need to make any corrections on this, you can't do it actually within this part of the form. You would actually have to go back to the dashboard and really the account settings within the account in the top right-hand corner and make changes within there if you need to on any of this. Now, for most of you, though, that are filling this out for high school senior students for the first time, you've just created the account, so this is probably all correct information. And if it is, then you just hit continue. And the next question that's going to pop up is going to be about what the state of legal residence is for the student. So you put in Iowa, and then that date the student became a legal resident of Iowa. Now, if the student was born here in Iowa, put the month and year that they were born. For those of you, though, that have moved to Iowa at some time, the student wasn't born here, we just want you to try to come as close as possible you can to that month and year that you came here to Iowa. After we hit continue there, now is what the student will need to provide consent approval to have their federal tax information brought over electronically. This is something that every student, and when we get to the parent part, every parent is going to need to do as well, give this consent approval to have their taxes brought in directly from the IRS. Even if you didn't file taxes, you still need to hit this consent approval. All contributors on a student's FAFSA form must hit this approval that you see on this page in the lower right-hand corner on there for a student to be eligible for federal aid. So we want to just encourage everyone, please do that. Hopefully your information will transfer over. Now they've added a new slide to where it will show that they're trying to securely bring that over. And if it does not work, it'll say data could not be received. Now, the majority of you, this is not going to be the slide that you're going to see. What you are going to see on this slide is it's actually a green highlighted box and it says success, that it's been pulled over. More families now, students and parents, are able to bring their tax information over directly from the IRS. And it's really helped out in cutting down the time and the amount of mistakes that are being made on the FAFSA form. So if this happens later on like this, and we're really, with our example, we're just going to show you, if this does happen though, where it says data is not received, then you'll have to manually put in your information, and I'm going to show you that in just a bit once we get there. But the majority of you, it's going to be a green highlighted box that says success, that it has transferred over. Now, after this part, the next part we're going to get into is students' personal circumstances situations. It's going to ask about students' marital status. Most high school seniors are going to put single down and click continue and move on. Then about their college or career plans, where they're going to be at the beginning of the 25-26 school year. Again, I think the majority probably of people watching this is filling this out for high school seniors. So you'd put first year freshmen next year is what they're going to be. And down below, they're not going to have a bachelor's degree yet. But if any of you are filling it out for students already in college, then you just need to put down where you think they're going to be within the next, within the start of really the fall of 2025. Next, we get into students' personal circumstance situations. These are really questions, what we used to call dependency status questions, that determine whether the student is dependent or independent upon the family. These questions that are be asking on this page, if the student's currently serving on active duty in the armed forces for purposes other than training, if the student's a veteran, if the student has children or other people, excluding a spouse, that live with them that will receive more than half their support from them in the next year, July 1 of 2025 through June 30th of 2026. At any time since the student turned 13, were they an orphan, or were they a ward of the court, or if they were in foster care? Those three after the turn the age of 13 questions there. If the student is an illegally emancipated minor determined by a court in the state of legal residence, or if the student was in a legal guardianship with someone other than a parent or step parent as determined by court in their state of legal residence. Now, most high school seniors are not going to be any of these things. They're going to put none of these apply and then hit continue. If any student would click on though one of these, that actually is going to make them independent and not need parent information on the form. The ones that we generally would see the most would be the ones about whether they were an orphan or were the court or in foster care or in a legal guardianship. If they are one of those things, they're going to end up being independent, not need parent information on the form. We just want them to get any paperwork ready because the colleges that they list down are more likely going to ask for that paperwork on that, whatever made them an independent student. Now, again, for our purposes though today, we're going to hit none apply and then hit continue. There will be another question, whether the student on any time on or after July 1 of 2024 was the student an unaccompanied and either homeless or self-supporting and at risk of being homeless. That unaccompanied is a big key word within there. If that is no, we hit continue and move on. But if that is yes, that's another way in making a student an independent student. And then it would ask them if they were designated by a TRIO person, an emergency shelter, a homeless school liaison, who gave them that designation. And that paperwork is something that the colleges more than likely will ask for later on as well. For our purposes, though, we're answering no to this question. And then there's another question about if the student has any unusual circumstances. Unusual circumstances in this case would be really if the student, as examples that are listed on here, I know it's a little bit hard to read, but it's extreme examples. Left home due to an abusive or threatening environment, abandoned or estranged by parents, refugee or asylum status, victim of human trafficking. These are some of the examples there. And if a student answers yes to this, they would be conditionally an independent student but would need to talk to the colleges later about that, and the colleges would need documentation and make that determination. If you feel like you are a student or know of a student who might be in this situation, I would encourage them to talk to the college or colleges that they're going to be putting down on the FAFSA form. The colleges are the ones that are empowered to make professional judgment on unusual circumstances, and they can give you guidance on that wherever the student is looking, depending on what that circumstance is for the student. Our purposes here tonight, we're going to put no down and then hit continue. And then this question asks about direct unsub lonely. Are the student's parents refusing to provide information on the FAFSA form? And if that's the case, then you would put yes down and they're only going for an unsub loan. If they're not any kind of extreme situation, but the parents just won't provide it, that's the only time you would put yes on this. This caused a lot of problems last year, and so we want to make sure to point out, and right now it's automatically on no in the very beginning. As a parent, we want to encourage you to make sure if a student's dependent to put your information on there. It's only going to help the student. It actually, even though your information would be taken into account, it does not make you from having to pay for anything on the form. And again, it will only help the student if they're dependent by including your information. So we would hope a dependent student, all of them would answer no to this question to move on, hit continue. And now we're going to get into another section on the form telling us about the parents. Are your parents married to each other? In this situation, we're going to say yes. So since they are married, then we're going to have to provide information for both parents and hit continue. And what we come to is an invite for the parent or parents that are going to be contributors on the FAFSA form. You are going to list out the parent's first name, last name, date of birth, social security number, and then email address. And then also you can list the parent's other spouse or partner down on there as well. What I would do with the very first parent, that would be the parent that has the FSA ID, making sure it's the parent that has the FSA ID on the form. That's the first one to list out. If both parents are going to need to provide information, or excuse me, if both parents, since they didn't file a joint tax return in 2023 on the form, then both are going to need it, and you would definitely list both down here as well, because this is going to be, again, sending invites to them to complete their section on the form. One bit of advice I want to make sure to point out is, or what that can cause a problem, is for any parent that does have a studentaid.gov account, when the student is inviting them on here right now, you need to make sure whatever for first name, last name, date of birth, and social security number, whatever is listed on the studentaid.gov account for the parent, that has to match exactly. So in other words, if you're a parent and your first name that you usually go by is Matt, but Matthew is your real name and Matthew is what you put down on your studentaid.gov account when you registered for it, put Matthew here on this invite. It's got to match up completely, because if it doesn't, you send the invite and it pops up to the top a red box saying that something isn't matching. We usually then will log in with the parent studentaid.gov account and see what is not listed. And most times it has to do with first or last name. Occasionally it can be a wrong date of birth that is done as well. Now as parents, you are going to get email invites for this. Once you get the invite there, you would be able to click on and basically it takes you back to studentaid.gov and makes you log into the account and do your section as well after student has invited you. But I'm going to show you that in a little bit. After inviting the parents, now we're getting into the student demographic information. It's going to ask about the student's gender, then also about race and ethnicity. Is the student Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin? And then the student's race. You can always prefer not to answer on this. This isn't information that the colleges will actually get. So if you prefer not to answer, you can certainly do that as well. But however you answer those questions, you do that. We hit continue, and it asks about a student's citizenship status. If you're a U.S. citizen, you'd click on that and hit continue. I do want to point out real quickly here that there is something called an eligible non-citizen. Eligible non-citizens would be those that are here in permanent status. have a green card or a conditional green card with a UCSIS number as well that you would need to list later if you're an eligible non-citizen. Now, if you're neither a U.S. citizen or an eligible non-citizen, and a lot of times these are the students that are just here on visas, student visa, visitor visas. DACA students would also not be considered eligible non-citizens on the form either. If you're not a U.S. citizen or an eligible non-citizen, you're actually not eligible for federal or state of Iowa aid. And we don't know of any Iowa colleges that would be asking for the FAFSA just for their institutional money if you're neither a U.S. citizen or an eligible non-citizen. So if anybody has any citizenship questions, please put those in the chat box. But I really, real quickly, just wanted to mention that within this program. Parents' educational status, whether neither parent attended college, one or both did but didn't complete, or one or both completed. You can also put don't know if you're filling it out and don't have them right there. But whatever box that would answer that question correctly, you'd click on it, hit continue. Parent killed in line of duty, whether serving on active duty in the member of the armed forces or performing official duties as a public safety officer. If that is no, in our example here, that's what we're using. We would put that down and then hit continue. Next, we get into the dependent student's high school completion status. So whatever they got, for our example here, the student got a high school diploma. And if you click on high school diploma and hit continue, then it's going to ask what high school. You'll be able to search by the state, city, and then the high school name. I would do that search there. Once you find it, you'll click on the box that lists the high school, hit continue, and it'll just show you one more time and have you confirm it. Then we get into the student's finances. This asks, did or will the student file taxes for 2023? Now, we're going to put yes here and then give examples as if you were filling this out manually. But if the student did not file taxes, you would put no down, and then it's not going to ask the tax questions. For many of you, you are actually going to, when you hit approve as a student to have your taxes brought over, you're going to see it be successful. And then if you didn't file taxes, this question is going to come up and you would just put no down that you did not file taxes there. But again, for our example, just to show you what some of the questions that are brought over and what you would have to do if for some reason some of you have to do it manually, we're going to say yes, you did file, hit continue, and then it asks about filing status, income earned from working, tax exempt interest, unporched of IRA distributions. A lot of times for a student, those are going to be the income earned from working would be something, but tax exempt interest IRA distributions are probably zero on there. And these are also going to be questions for the parents in their part if they're not able to bring in their information over from the IRS and they have to manually put it in as well. Untaxed portion of pensions, AGI, income tax paid, IRA deductions, education credits, and there will be boxes to help and give you line numbers to go off of to pull that information in. The bottom two questions on here, even if your taxes are brought over electronically, like the majority of you, it will be, then just these bottom two questions are what's going to be asked about college grants or scholarships, benefits reported to the IRS, or foreign earned income exclusion. These are very, very rare, and for almost all of you, I'm sure my bet would be all of you, it would be the case. You're not going to have any of that, and you would put zeros for those two questions. But those two bottom questions, they are going to be asked even if your taxes are brought over electronically. Once this is answered and we hit continue, it gets into the assets for the students. All of these are, as of the day you're filling out the form, what's your current balance of cash savings and checking, current net worth of investments, and then current net worth of business and or investment farm value. So putting that information down, most times students aren't going to have any investments or business or farm. If that's the case, occasionally, one I did today, student had a CD in their name. We put down that $500 CD that they had listed on there, but a lot of times the students are just putting down their cash savings and checking. Once that is entered and we hit continue, now we're going to list the colleges that the student wants the information sent to. And the colleges can be, the amount of colleges a student can list can be up to 20. Now, if they just have one and they know where they're going, then that's all that they would need to do. But up to 20 colleges is what they can list. If they happen to know what the school code is, they can search by that. If they don't, they just put in the state, the school name. If they want to list the city as well, they can do that on there too. But they will do a search, and then once they find the schools, they will hit that select button and continue to add up as many as they want to up to the 20 colleges. Even if a student hasn't applied yet, if there's a 1% chance that you might apply there this year, I would go ahead and list the school down on the form. But most colleges are not going to do anything with FAFSA results that they get if you have not applied and been accepted. So that would be something to work on, as well as getting the FAFSA form in if any students still have college applications that they need to send in. Once we've listed out all the colleges that a student uh, wants to have, it will show them at the very end. You can always add more here if you need to, or if that's enough, then we'll hit continue. I do want to mention that if a student puts down, a couple of colleges now initially on their form, but then another college comes into play later on and they want to add that school, they're able to do that after the FAFSA has been processed. And usually it only takes the FAFSA about a week for it to get processed this year. Wasn't the case last year, so that's a great benefit. Now it's going very quickly for them to processing the FAFSA forms. So let's say a week, even two at the most. After it's initially processed, then you can make corrections, which would include adding schools on later too that you didn't initially do. Once we've listed all the colleges down, now we're at the end of the form. And a student can go through their personal identifiers, personal circumstances, demographics, financials, and colleges one more time just to review to make sure everything looks good. If it does, they're also going to show the contributor parts. It will show kind of some parent sections, what's going to need to be filled in, but those aren't going to be filled in yet when you are starting with the FAFSA form for the student, their portion first. Once we hit continue after the review, now it's to sign and complete your section. There's a summary on here giving a disclaimer that you're going to use the federal student aid only to pay for the cost of attending the institution. You're not in default on any loan. You don't owe money back on a federal student grant. You'll notify the school if you are in default, and you will not receive Pell Grant for more than one school. So basically, you're signing over these disclaimers as well as all the information is accurate and you've got everything in. If it is, you would click on the box stating I, the name of the student, agree to the terms outlined above, and then click the sign button. Now you notice it just says sign on here. This form is just beginning. This is the first contributor on the form, so it doesn't say submit yet. It's not going to be totally done. But when we click the sign box, then it's going to say you're almost there. The student section is complete. But student is dependent, so the parents are still going to need to complete their part for the FAFSA to be done. I will tell you at this point, I want to mention different colleges are going to have different priority dates for getting this FAFSA form in by. And you want to make sure you get it in by the earliest priority date of whatever colleges and universities that a student is looking at. A form will not be totally complete until all the contributors have submitted their part. So even though this student has their section in right now, for it to be a complete FAFSA form, the parents must end up complete. Any parent contributors must complete their part as well. Now there will be more information. Students will get, an email about kind of what needs to be done next with this information too. But what we generally do at ICAN is once we're done completing this student section here, we log out of the student account, studentaid.gov account, and then we jump in and log in with the parent information, their login, and do their section from there. Now you are going to get an email I'd mentioned earlier, any parent that was invited. This is a sample of what that email will look like on here. This isn't within studentaid.gov. It's the email you're going to send. And when you click on the email where it states to get started, it's basically going to take you to studentaid.gov and you're going to log in with that form. If we're doing it within our office, again, I tell them you're going to get an email, but you don't have to worry about looking at that. We log out of the studentaid.gov account, and then what we're going to do is log back in with the parent username and password. they're going to be two-step verified after we log in with their information, either by text or email. And what we want to do is eventually get to the dashboard of the parent's account, and there should be an activity that is there from the student. As you see on here with this activity, it is the student inviting the parent to complete their part of the form. When you see this, you accept the invitation, click on that button. It's going to say, by accepting this, you agree to share your information, you hit continue, and now we're going to get into the parent part of the form. They show you, if you want to see them, the 4 videos again. What is the FAFSA, contributors on the FAFSA, what to expect, and after submitting the form as well. But we're going to come to the parent identity information. You want to double check this to make sure all of that information is accurate. If anything needs to be changed, again, you would need to go back into the account settings within your login to make any changes on this information or address. Now, if that all looks correct, the first thing as a parent you're going to do in your section is to give consent and approval to have your taxes brought over too. So we would click on that in the lower right-hand corner, that approve button there, to have your taxes brought over. Hopefully you'll get the message that it says success. For our example here, it's going to say not, so we show you again manually what you would have to put in. And I do want to tell you, even if it's a success, it is good to have your taxes with you. Sometimes there still might be questions we need to look up just to make sure, double check on. So you always, whether it's an appointment with us or you're doing it yourself, make sure you do have your 2023 tax information with you. And the 2526 FAFSA form, no matter when a student is filling it out, it is going to still use 2023 tax information. Now, once we hit continue here, we're going to get into the parent demographic information, asking them about their marital status. Our example here, parents are married. Their state of legal residence. And we would, the question about state of legal residence, it would be the parent that you're logged in with on the studentaid.gov account. If that's the parent, if in Iowa, it's their date of birth, put the month and year that they were born. But if they moved here at a different time, again, we just want to try to come as close as possible as we can to that month and year. Next, we get into the parent's finances. It is going to ask if you've received any of these federal benefits. And I know this is kind of blurry and a little bit hard to read, but basically it's going to ask you in 2023 or 24, did anybody in your family receive an earned income credit, which is line 27 on your federal taxes, federal housing assistance, free or reduced price lunch from school, Medicaid, credit for coverage under the qualified health care plan, refundable credit for coverage under the qualified health care plan, supplemental nutrition assistance, food stamps, supplemental security income, that's not Social Security, but supplemental security income, SSI, TAMF, or WIC as well. Now, if none of these apply, you click on none of them apply. If you have one or more on there, you click on those. And actually, this is a simplified needs test. If you click on any of these, you won't be asked for asset questions later on within here. For our example, though, here, we're going to put none apply and hit continue. Then it will ask if the parents did file a joint tax return. Now, even if your transfer of information said success after you hit approval earlier, you're always going to be asked about did you file a joint tax return in 2023? And if that is yes, then again, only one studentaid.gov account is going to be needed for a parent and to be able to complete the parent section. In this case, if they weren't able to bring it over, it's also going to ask you if you filed taxes for 2023. Next, it's going to ask about family size. Now, if your taxes were brought over electronically, then there will be another question at first that it will ask. It's going to ask you if your 2023 taxes, if your family size differs from what you claimed on your 2023 taxes. If that is no, then you'll be able to move on. But if the number of individuals you claimed on your 23 taxes is different than your family size, then you're going to come to this question like this again here too, where you're going to count the parent spouse, the student, and then the parents' other children or other dependents, and you include that in there to get the actual family size. Here we've got a family size of 4. When we hit continue, then the next question is going to be the number in college. Now, excluding parents, how many will be college students between July 1 of 2024 and June 2025, excuse me, and June 30th of 2026? If that's just the student, the high school senior filling it out this year, you would put 1 down. But if there is going to be 2 or more, you would put that number within there. Right now, there's no longer you could say a break, for lack of a better word, by having multiple students in college in the calculation that determines what they feel you could contribute as a family, but the question is still asked. After that, we get into your finances as far as putting down just kind of what we showed you with the student, asking about filing status, um, income earned from work, tax-exempt interest. Not all these you may have, untaxed portions of IRA or pensions, adjusted gross income, income tax paid on their education credits, uh, business loss, Schedule C, if you filed any of these schedules. A lot of things that if it transfers over for you, makes it easier to fill out. But if you have to manually put it in, there are going to be little dots like you see on this one right here that you click on, and it'll tell you what line numbers to go off of. So again, wanted to show you this, but for the majority of you as families now, it's going to be a success and your information is going to be transferred over. More families can utilize that now than in the past. So again, most of you are not going to have to worry about manually putting in this information. Once you have entered in 2023 information, then it's going to come to your asset questions. Now, for parents, one of the first ones it's going to ask you is about annual child support received. You put in the child support if you received any for any children for the last complete calendar year. If any of you filed a FAFSA before January 1 of 2025 over the next couple of weeks here, then you would put down what you received in 2023 because that would be the last complete year. But if any of you file the FAFSA after January 1 or on January 1 of 2025 or after, then you would put down what you received in child support for 2024, if you received any at all. If it's 0, then you put 0 down, but it is the last complete calendar year. So right now, what that means really depends on when you as a family, if you're receiving this, fill out the FAFSA form. On January 1 or after, put down 2024. If you fill it out here still in December, then you would use 2023, what you received for the child support. After that, it's the parent asset questions. Same questions that were asked to the students, but now to the parents. Your amount of cash savings and checking, net worth of investments, and then net worth in business and farm. And this is actually where I wanted to talk just a little bit about more about what this meant. First of all, that last question about business and farm. There are no longer any exemptions for business and farm. So what you're looking for in net worth is value minus debt for that business or for that farm. And when we consider that what the net worth is, what it's considering for fair market value, land, building, machineries, equipment, inventory, all of that is counted up. So net worth of that minus any debt against that business or against that farm that you would be taking off on there. I know sometimes for small businesses, depending on what that business is, your net worth value minus debt might be 0 or even in the negative. And if it's in the negative, you would just put 0 down then for that value. As far as the second question where it's asking for investments, the investments that you would be counting, not the home that you live in, but other real estate, land, rental properties, net worth value minus debt, trust funds, even if you can't touch them until at the age of 30, trust funds are still something that would need to be counted. Money market funds, mutual funds, CDs, UGMA accounts, stocks, bonds. The very last one, 529 plans. 529 plans are an asset that must be counted. Now, where a 529 plan is counted is on the account owner side. If you're a parent saving for your son or daughter with a 529 plan, you're the account owner. They're the beneficiary. So you would count it on the parent side. And starting last year and now still this year as well on the 25-26 FAFSA, as a parent, you would only put down the 529 plan for the student that you're filling the form out for. So only the form that you're out for. If a grandparent or an aunt or uncle, somebody else is saving a 529 plan for a student, they're the account owner. And there's nowhere here on the FAFSA form we have to count grandparent or aunt or uncle's assets. If you have any asset questions, please again ask our experts in the chat box. Now, investments you will not count: the home that you live in, your principal residence, and then also retirement accounts. So do not count that. For many families we deal with, not all, but many families, that's their two main, if not only, assets. And you do not have to count the home that you live in and retirement accounts. In fact, you no longer have to count what you put into a retirement account during the last tax year that's being asked about. We used to have to in the past. Now they don't even look at that untaxed portion that you contributed during the tax year that's being asked about. After you filled in the asset information for the parent, now we're going to put in the other parent general information: parent, spouse, general information, their name, last name, date of birth, social security number, and email address. If this parent happens to have a studentaid.gov account, again, make sure to put the name, last name, date of birth, and social security number exactly as it is on their studentaid.gov account. If their last name and they're like the second or a junior, and they listed that on their studentaid.gov account, that has to be put there as well. There was one parent I was helping just a couple of days ago. We were trying to invite, and the dad was last name plus junior, and he had added JR at the end of his studentaid.gov account. So we had to include that in there for that invite to be sent to him. So double check that just to make sure that's exactly as the studentaid.gov account is if the parent has an account. Once we list that information and hit continue, now we're at the review part for the parents: personal identifiers, demographics, and financials. You can double check that information, but if it all looks good, we hit continue. And now we're going to be able to sign and submit the form, because in this case, this is the last contributor that needs to get their part done. When the last contributor is ready to sign, then it's going to say sign and submit, and then the FAFSA is going to be complete. So they just need to look over the disclaimer, make sure all of their information is accurate and everything, and state that within this. Click on the checkbox that it is, hit sign and submit, and it's going to say congratulations to the student, your FAFSA form is complete. And at the same time, when we do it this way, the student, not the parent, but the student, is going to be sent a confirmation email that their FAFSA is done. So as a parent, if you want to take a look at that and see, you're going to need to make sure to double check with the student on that to share that email with you. And that can give an idea on what your student aid index is. The student aid index is the amount of money really that the government feels you could contribute. The whole reason why you're doing this form is to get that student aid index number. And with that number, when the colleges that you put down on the form receives the results, that helps them to determine a student's financial need from their cost of attendance, and eventually what kind of financial aid, federally, state, the college itself, that they're able to provide. After you submit the FAFSA form, within a week or two, the colleges would be able to download the results. If they need anything else from you, they will let you know. If they don't need anything else from you, then eventually they're going to come up with what we call a financial aid offer, listing everything that a student qualifies for. There might be some colleges that start getting them out, after the new year. I think because of the delay in the process, there are going to be many colleges that are not going to get them out until March or April. So any of you that do it now or even into January, there could be a little bit of a waiting game before you end up getting your financial aid offer. If you're ever wondering, or just to make sure when they start coming out, check with each individual college on that. Because if you list more than one college down, you could receive, more than likely, your financial aid offers from schools at different times. Well, that was going through the process and showing you step by step. I want to thank again our FAFSA step-by-step partners: the Bureau of Iowa College Aid, IASFA, as well, along with us at ICAN there. I want to put out a last call. Any questions that you have, you're watching this live, please keep putting those questions in and we'll answer them. Really appreciate Jordan, Kylie, Melissa, Steph, and Tim for answering those questions on there as well for you. And if you would like help later on, or if you're watching the recording so you couldn't ask a question during the chat, you weren't watching this live, please contact us at ICAN. There's our website, there's our phone number too. Especially right now in December and even into January, we are going to be in FAFSA appointments a lot, whether Zoom or in person, as well as traveling to different FAFSA events during June, even into February. So if we're not able to answer something right away, even if you have to call and have to leave a message on the voicemail, please do, and we'll try to get back to you as quickly as we can to answer the questions that you have. So any question, any other? I'm just going to, again, I'm kind of just popping up the chat now. It looks like there was a lot of questions that had been asked and going through on there. Any questions at all? Any last minute questions before we end the webinar tonight? Seeing a few more that are on there. One question I see on there, and I'm just going to kind of answer it here out loud, is somebody said they have a rental home. If you do have a rental home, that would be something that you're going to count, and you're going to look at the net worth value minus debt. So if you have a rental home property that's worth 150,000, but you still owe 50,000 on it, 100,000 is what you would put down on there. If you own a rental property but just bought it and it's worth 150 and you still owe 150 on it, you would put 0 down on there as well. The rent that you would receive, that's actually going to go into your taxes. That's not the asset part. That's already going to be on your taxes as a business income or rent royalty or something. It's already going to be taken into account within your adjusted gross income. Right. Any other last minute questions that we might have? All right. I did see somebody asking about if your primary residence has rentals too, how do I include? It's really within that portion of it. If there's a rental within there, you wouldn't count the primary residence, but trying to find out and cover a net worth of that too. Some people are asking why you can't see other people's questions on there. That's something that we've done really just with the host and panelists. Sometimes they can get personal with those questions. So we just wanted only the panelists to be able to answer those questions on there. That's why we had done that. I'll keep that to account. Was hoping to learn from other questions as well. I tell you what, in the future, I'm sorry, I will we will think about that. And again, sometimes it got that way, but I guess there is a way that if somebody doesn't want everyone to see it, that they can do that. So good suggestion. I appreciate that. And we will, I will probably make that change on the next one that we do on January 15th to allow everyone, if they want to share their questions to everyone to see, allow them to be able to do that. So great suggestion. Thank you. All right. Whoops. Okay. Not seeing any other questions now, and I appreciate all of you reaching out and doing that. But again, that's a great suggestion. So I am, like I said, the next time I'll make sure that we do have that an option where other people can see the questions on there. But again, want to thank all of our experts for answering the questions that you have. And if any of you have any more, please don't hesitate to contact us at ICAN on our website, at our phone number there as well, and we will try to answer those questions for you. So everyone, again, appreciate you taking the time, whether watching it live on December 18th or watching the recorded version. But since we did this on December 18th, I'm going to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year coming up. Enjoy this time if you're a high school senior parent this year. Hopefully it's not going to cause too much stress in doing this. And just know you've got plenty of help out there with us at ICAN, with the admissions counselors and financial aid folks at the colleges and universities you're at. Don't be afraid in reaching out and answering questions. So thanks everyone. We're going to go ahead and end the webinar now. And again, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you.